We don't often have more than one guest on the show, but excited for our two guests today. We are chatting with Fran, Melo, CEO, and Simona Constantini, CMO of Northflow'sIntegrated. This is a platform that helps podcasters, podcast agencies, and everybody else manage the workflow of producing and publishing their podcasts. As someone who's done that kind of work for a long, long time and will probably be doing it for a long time, I'm so excited about this platform to learn more about it, to share it with you. Fran, Simona, thank you so much for joining me today.
Definitely.
Thank you. Really excited to be here with you.
Who is Northflow the brainchild of? Who sat there and said, we could make a platform that makes podcast production a lot easier?
This is a Fran question.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, it was Tally's. She's not here today, but I was running a different startup and she came up with the idea. She saw somebody talking about the struggles of producing an episode and how they need to use a bunch of different tools and things become messy, assets and so forth. And so she brought it to me and also to one of our founders, Neto, and we started discussing it. We took about 6 months just talking about it. Eventually, we started talking to actual podcasters and agencies. And after talking to close to 100 people, we decided to build something. So that's the short version of the story.
Was the other startup related to podcasting or content creation, or just totally different field?
Totally different field. It was mainly focused on solopreneurs that are building businesses, and it was focused in South America. I've been building startups since I can remember, and so I've built one startup for beauty professionals. That one that I was talking about was mainly focused in South America, and it was a startup that we raised about 3.5 million. We built a team of 25 people, and it was acquired last September, and that's when I joined Northflow full time. And take on this challenge.
Love that. Well, and I love the idea that you're not just like, oh, I have an idea, I want to build that. You hear about a problem, you decide there's got to be a better solution for it. You talk to your target audience, and then you go out there and build it. What was like the most common problem that you were hearing when you were talking to podcast producers that made you most excited to want to put this together?
Sure. Yeah, I'll say the answer, but I would love Simona to pitch in on this one because eventually we brought her in because she is the industry expert, and that was the missing piece to our team. And so we spoke to 100 people, but nothing beats having somebody that's actually doing this every single day in your team, and Simona is that person. But the one thing we kept on hearing all the time is how difficult it was to manage all the tools. So from Google Forms to Trello to Drive, Dropbox, and all of those things. And so if somebody needed to find an asset from 2 episodes ago, they would have to go into Google Drive or Dropbox. And it was just communications, emails, all of those things would kind of be all disconnected, fragmented tools. So the bottom line is just the fragmented tools. So the idea for Northflow was to bring those things together. And we're certainly not 100% there, but that's where we're heading. And so we're bringing things together under one roof. So forms, calendars, episode, task management, all of those things into one place. So this way, when you think about creating an episode, that's where you start and that's where you finish. You start managing your content, creating your content, also taking forms from listeners and your audience, and booking with guests, and all of those things kind of integrated into one tool, as opposed to using a bunch of different tools, duct taping it with Zapier and making it work, and possibly having something going wrong or breaking in between. The idea really is to remove all the duct taping and have it all in one place and integrate it out of the box.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I really feel seen and heard as you're talking, Fran, because these are all the things that I've struggled with in the past and continue to struggle with. And just like, check, need that, like just all of it. So I appreciate that. And Simona, you right before we jumped on, you were mentioning that you run a podcast production agency as well. You're sort of the like real world expert of what that looks like. So as someone who is doing this, what was it that you were really hoping to produce with Northflow, and how close are you to realizing that end goal?
A wonderful question. So one of the things, I was thinking about this when Fran was talking, one of the things that has been always the biggest pain point for me and my agency is, and you would definitely feel this probably as well, is like how quickly things move, right? Week to week, when you're doing podcast episode production, there really isn't always a lot of time, right? And so we had pieceworked this system together through Trello to try and like make some kind of like to-do list, task list, so that we could keep track of every single episode and when it would go live, right? So having all of that now managed in Northflow directly, like it doesn't matter which episode I'm working on, I can have a bird's eye view and I can take a look and I know exactly what the status is of every single episode. So when you're producing for over 20 clients on a weekly basis, sometimes bi-weekly depending on the show, I need to know what the status is of everything. I need to know and make sure that my team is editing things in time and we're all working towards the same goal, right? So having that system alone and that structure alone saves so much brain space, because then you don't worry about what's going to fall through the cracks. You don't worry about, is this episode going to be uploaded in time or what have you. And we've never missed a deadline, which has been fantastic, but it definitely has saved a lot of chaos, a lot of headache, and a lot of just additional stress that doesn't really need to be there. Like when you create a podcast management system out of tools that are not meant to do that, it still doesn't do all of the things that you need it to do, right? Like you still have different systems that talk to each other. You still have, like one of the things Fran mentioned was having, a booking calendar. So like if you have all of those pieces all integrated into one place, yeah, it might take a hot second to update your process and to move it over. But what's the long-term game, and how much time are you saving on the back end of that you wouldn't have gotten back otherwise, just by continuing to keep on keeping on with the same thing that you're doing all the time?
Well, I guess that would be like my biggest hurdle, or what I would imagine a lot of podcast agency and producers and editors would struggle with is their system. I'll say it frankly, their system sucks, but it works, and it's taken a lot of time to get them to where they are. And when you have been doing something for a long time, the habit, the routine, the pattern, right, the expectation by the clients is there. How do you convince somebody to take a stab at completely upending their systems and trying this out, knowing that through no fault of anybody, there are going to be hiccups, there are going to be bad days, and like you're going to have days where you're like, oh, I regret this, but then it'll be worth it when you can get through to the other side and be like, no, this is, now everything is smooth and clear and easy to work with.
100%. Yeah, when you think about it in that way, the mental hurdle of that is absolutely like the biggest challenge, because it's kind of like, is the pain painful enough to make you jump from what you were doing before into something that would work better for you? I think as like, and this is going more into like less in the podcasting world, less in the tech world, but if you look at like people from a human behavioral point of view, people don't really like change, right? So then you got to think about, what problem is the product solving for? So each thing that you do or that you create has to solve for one of three different things. You're either solving for time, you're solving for money, or you're solving for influence, right? So if you take these three different pieces, our biggest win with Northflow, if you will, is the time that is saved on the back end of that. So if you can get yourself over the hurdle and allow our team to help onboard you, which is something that we do, which maybe Fran can touch on a little bit afterwards. If you can allow yourself to get the time back in your life, in your schedule, then you've emptied space in your mind. Okay, now you've reduced this mental clutter that allows you to show up with more influence in your space, because you have more time to create content. You have more time to promote the episodes that you're working so hard on. You have more time because your process is clear and it's clean, right? And then everyone's goal with their show at the end of the day, most of the time, I would say like 97% of the podcasters that we talk to and work with, is money. People want to make money in what they're doing, whether it's direct ROI from the show or direct ROI from their business that is supporting the show. That's what people want to see. And so how do you do that? Like you can't get to a goal clearly if you don't have a system and structure in place to help support you do that. But you're right. Like it absolutely is a mental hurdle that people have to just, work through. But like Fran has said to me so many times, like, if we can just get to like the other side of like the mental hurdle, everything else is so much easier. And it's true. It's absolutely true. But it's really about answering the questions that people don't already know that they have, if that makes any sense. And then also showing them how they can save more time with a system and a process that's working for them and not against them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and to add to what Simona is saying, I always like to bring this example. I am a product person. I build products, and I've been doing this for the longest time. And when Notion came out, I've always been in love with Notion. It's a fantastic tool. And I remember in my previous startup, we had all of our system in place. And the way we manage our team, our development team, everything was inside Notion. And eventually somebody brought up this new tool called Linear. And I was like, screw it. I'm never going to try anything else because I have everything on Notion. And just because I'm curious, I started messing with Linear. 2 weeks later, I was like, heck, all of the intelligent decisions I had to make inside Notion and connect all the relational database, all of that stuff is out of the box already part of Linear. And it just made sense. So the switch wasn't like a hurdle. It was just a very smooth transition because everything was already there. And so all the best practices were already there. And so that's one of the biggest things that Simona is really helping us with. So she's not just the CMO. She's also partially a product person that's looking into the product and say, look, this is great. It works, but it sucks for me because of X, Y, and Z. And that takes us back into the lab and saying, how do we solve this problem? Because in order for people to switch, the transition has to be smooth. And so, again, we're not 100% there, but I believe we're walking there pretty fast. And I think if we're able to create a system that's just has all of the best practices already into it and people just try it, I believe that the transition eventually will make sense, will be a logical decision to make at some point.
So what are the main features that exist right now? What are some of the ones that are definitely coming, and what are some pie in the sky ones that people who are like, who want to jump in early can be really excited for down the road?
Perfect. Yes, that's a good question. I don't think it's a specific feature. It's just how they all work together. It's the integration of all the features. So at this point, and we're building this in 3 phases. The first phase is building all the tools that are necessary, and none of it will be new or innovative. It's just the stuff that's already there, but we're building it all under one roof and making them work together without you having to duct tape stuff. So that's the first phase. So project management that's already integrated with forms, that's already integrated with calendars, that has some intelligence behind it. So like if somebody fills out a form that automatically creates a project or an episode with all the tasks already assigned to the right folks. So all of those things are basically the first phase of development. And so I wouldn't say it's a one specific feature. Is the fact that all of these features, they already work together and they already have most of the best practices that we could learn from the industry. The next phase will be the automation and the agents, where things will kind of like take place without you actually having to do it. And our thesis for this is that today people are using AI mostly to do the things that they like doing, like creating. And the boring stuff like slicing, distribution, and all of that stuff, they still kind of have to do it. And so we're trying to invert this and kind of take away the boring stuff and still allow you to create freely and having tools to assist you on creation. And the last phase of this will be the distribution, where we integrate with all the other tools out there that are going to send out your stuff into the right place. So if it's a podcast, it's just uploading your episode into the right hosting platform and sending it out to all the social media and so forth. So this first phase, I would say it's not just one feature, is the combination of all these features that work so well integrated together, such as forms, calendars, project management, assets, all of these things in one single place, working integratedly without you having to go back and forth in different platforms. And so, and like I said, we're still not in the second phase, but we're getting into it pretty quickly. So right now, the biggest thing would be the integration of all these features together.
I want to I want to share one of my favorite features though that we have, because this is one that like I asked for and then they developed, which is kind of amazing. Like ask and you shall receive. I'm like, I'm not I'm not a dev person. Like I can market the thing, I can tell you what we need, but like ask me to code it, they probably don't want me to do that. But one of the pieces that I love is our production schedule. So as a producer, as a production company, you rely on your production schedule to know what is going live and when, what interviews do you have coming up, and so on, especially if you like to plan a couple months ahead and or plan seasons and that kind of stuff. So we created like a bird's eye view, if you will, like production schedule where you can plan out whether it's in seasons or whether it's, month by month, year by year, exactly which episodes are going to go out and when they're going to go out. And so you plan them from that production schedule like part, and then you can click on that episode and it'll take you to all of the tasks that you have to do within that episode, and it'll tell you like the percentage to completion that you're at, what the due dates are, who is assigned to what. So from like a task management point of view, having that right there saves so much time, because then you can template all of that. Like you can create a template for it, and so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single week. And if you're running more than one show, you may have a different process for each show, and you may have a different production schedule for each show. So you can create different templates for different shows based off of different processes that you have. Like within my agency, we have 4 different tiers, 4 levels of service, right? And so if someone is on plan A and someone else is on plan, C, those are different processes. Those are different things that need to get done. And I never have to worry about what is going to get done and when, because it's just there. And my team doesn't have to guess like, who's responsible for this, or what client needs what, and so on. So anyways, I like that from like a management point of view. I find it really helpful.
Love it. Well, and for those who are curious, you can check it out at northflow.io. We are chatting with Fran Melo, CEO, and Simona Constantini, CMO of Northflow. Before we let you go, a couple of questions that we like to ask everybody in the show as we get a lay of the land in the podcasting space. Simona, I'm going to ask you this first, since you're more involved in the space. Outside of what you guys are building, which is to improve the workflow of podcast agencies and production and whatnot, is there any other place where you'd like to see improvement in the podcasting space overall, whether it's from distribution, production, monetization, or even on the consumption side as a listener?
Oh my gosh. There's so much talk right now about video and how video fits into the podcasting world. And I think it's no secret that video is something that is very heavily coming down the line. I mean, it's already there, but I think maybe just more integration in some way if you're going to do a video podcast, like from the hosting platform side, because right now it's all really separate, right? Like you have Spotify that's doing video on its own, you have YouTube doing video on its own, but like no way to add it to other hosting platforms. But then you get into a conversation of like changing the whole medium of podcasting in and of itself. So like that, I'm like, maybe not. So maybe I'll leave my answer at that. I would be curious to know your answer on that one.
Ooh, I will definitely get into that. In the meantime, Fran, are you a big podcast consumer? I mean, I know you build solutions wherever you get your calling, but what about you? Any big things that you'd like to see improve in podcasting?
Oh yeah. I'm always listening to podcasts. I love to listen to founder stories and how they solved certain problems, how they were able to, turn a certain problem into a solution that made sense for a specific audience. So yeah, I spend a lot of my time. In fact, if you think about it, a lot of the education most people are getting today is mostly coming from podcasts, because people are just listening to each other. And so that to me, and that's the reason why to me it made a lot of sense to start with the podcast world. And I've always been curious about producing my own podcast. And so that's been a thing that I've been talking to Simona about. So she might be my podcast advisor very soon, but I might be jumping into that as well very soon.
Are you comfortable managing your podcast through Simona on a platform called Northflow? Because I heard it works really well for production partners and podcasters working together.
Yes, in fact, that's the idea. I mean, I want to use the product. I want to use my own product and feel the pain and be the first one to say what sucks and what works really well, so that I can be the first one to fix it too. So, and that's the main reason why I'm trying to, planning on starting my own podcast and kind of go through the hurdles myself.
Mm-hmm. And also, we can collaborate in the same workspace together. Like I can collaborate through my account, can go into his. So anyways, there's that feature as well.
Very, very nice. To quickly answer your question, yes, there's lots of things I would love to change in the podcasting space. I'm working on a few of them on my own. One that I am not working on because I just don't have the capacity for it and I'm not smart enough though. It is that discoverability. Sometimes, I say to a lot of clients who I've spoken to over the years, forget the social media hacks with the, like all the hacks that people give you for growing your podcast. Truthfully, at the end of the day, most people who are listening to a new show for the first time are doing so because someone they know, like, or trust has said, hey, Fran, based on what you've said, I think you might be into this show that I like. And if you have a relationship with that person, you'll be like, okay, Matthew's might have a good opinion. So I'll take his opinion. I'll check it out. I'll check out that show. And in the meantime, sometimes you're just like, I really need a new podcast about marketing. And that process of searching and then trying to find something that's not only on the right topic, but has the right tone, the right feel, right? Like it's just going to jive with who you are as a person, is just so difficult. And so, I hope somebody smarter than me can come up with a really good, like, podcast vibe discoverability platform that just says, based on what you're currently listening to, here are some shows on different topics that, would make sense.
You just gave Fran his next business idea. I'm just kidding.
No. I will be talking to Fran on the side about one of my other business ideas that I need help with. So no.
You know what though? On the discoverability piece as well, like this is something that has changed so much since I started podcasting, because like podcasting has evolved so much, even in just the last few years. And if you're looking in terms from like from a discoverability point of view, you want to be and kind of need to be creating content nowadays that's kind of answering the questions of your target audience without them even knowing or understanding that they have a question that they need answered or solved. Because if someone is going to put something into a podcast app to look for content, it has to answer the question that they're looking for, right? So now you're going into the things that are actually searchable within the platforms, which is your titles, which is your descriptions, which is even your name of your show and all of those things, right? So I think those pieces are maybe not what we're traditionally focused on before, but even just today, I have had conversations with 3 different podcasters of, I need to change my titles because I think that's going to help me get discovered more. And they're not wrong, in my opinion, because I think that those keywords are things that'll help you get found in some ways, but that's just my thought.
I don't think they're wrong either. But I also think to what you said, right? Like, you need to be putting out content that answers people's questions when they're looking for that question to be answered. And the like, running a good podcast can be a full-time job. Running the content repurpose strategy in order to make your content discoverable is another full-time job. And most of us just don't have 2 full-time jobs, let alone probably the 3rd and the 4th, in us. So it's a really hard thing to get there without getting lucky.
Exactly. I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, who would decide to take on this venture? Like, who would? I'm just kidding. Like, you're like, I want to start a podcast, and it's like, oh my gosh, this whole world of things that you don't even realize until you get into it.
It could be death by 1,000 cuts. If you're not so passionate about it that like you just bleed what it is you want to talk about, podcasting can definitely be a lot more work than you think it's going to be.
1,000%.
All right. What about tech? So, as people who are podcasters or getting ready to be a podcast, any tech that you would like to see in the podcasting space? Could be microphones, mixers, cameras. Again, something that helps with distribution. Not necessarily, something that helps with production workflow, since you've already got one of those coming, but anything else that you guys would like to see in the space for yourselves personally?
I travel a lot. I travel a lot. Like every week I'm somewhere new pretty much. And I have like my travel set up and like it's fine and like it works, but it would be really cool to have, and like I have a friend who has like a studio like in a box and that kind of stuff, but in that's a really cool product. But I kind of feel like if I could just have in my laptop, everything integrated into one, that would be super cool. Like, I mean, I don't know. I heard that AirPods now have like mic quality, like the same as, you know, the mics that we're using today. And I'm like, is that actually true? I haven't tested them, so I don't actually know. But how much more efficient would that actually be if I could just bring my AirPods and like bring my computer and not have to worry about the whole setup that comes with it when I'm traveling? Just a thought.
I like that.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm using an AirPod Max now, so you guys tell me, is it the same quality? I also have. No, there we go. There's the answer.
When the end user hears it, they're going to be like, "Well, no, it sounds amazing."
Yeah.
But
yeah, I have a what is it called? Simona, help me out
Blue
here.
Yeti.
What is this microphone? Blue Yeti.
Blue Yeti.
But it seems like there's a little discussion between Blue Yeti and Shure. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna keep this off the screen and just have my my AirPod Max here. But for me,
Blue Yetis are not bad microphones. You just know you have to know how to set them up. That's the only thing. Okay, go ahead.
That means I'm screwed because
well,
I would not know how to set them up.
Yeah, I mean the Blue Yeti is in fact it's a great microphone. Problem is it's too good, and for most people in their homes or offices or wherever, it's picking up too much noise. And like Simona said, if you don't set it up correctly, it's just a disaster waiting to happen. I would totally recommend getting yourself a Samsung Q2U, just a little handheld microphone, USB attachment, headphones in. You really can't go wrong. And yes, like I know Apple is claiming that AirPods are going to have mic-like quality. I just don't buy it because our voices go this way right in front of us, and the microphone is all the way back here on my ears. So I'm not sure how it's supposed to pick up our sound as high quality. Whereas, for those watching, you can see this. Both Simona and I are like, almost a little too intimate with our microphones, which is really like a good place to be because you're not getting anything other than the sounds of our voices coming into them. All right, this one's easy. And Fran, I'm going to let you go first. You have a favorite podcast or two that you're listening to that, as soon as a new episode drops, you are stopping what you're doing and you're going to go check it out.
Yeah, it's called Lenny's Podcast. It's a product management focused on basically building products and having folks that are building products and people from Airbnb and new startups and so forth, and they're basically sharing your tactics, their strategies in terms of building product and figuring out the right way to address the problem. So he's my favorite at this point.
Nice. What about you, Simona?
Mine is, I feel like it's so basic. I because we do so much production work, I don't really listen to a whole lot of podcasts for fun anymore because I'm always listening to podcasts all the time. So I'm like, no, I'm like, everyone's like, go for a walk and listen to a podcast. I'm like, go for a walk and leave my phone at home.
No, I'm going to watch some TV. Yeah.
Literally like anything else. No, I'm just kidding. I love all shows. I would say Diary of the CEO. I feel like it's kind of like, for me, he brings on topics that like, if I only have an hour to listen to something, I feel like I'm going to get all of the information in that one episode, and I'm not going to go and like need to get 100 different perspectives on the same thing if I don't want to. So yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, great answers, great conversation, and yes, a great product that, especially those of you who are producing podcasts for yourselves, but mostly, if you're an agency and you're trying to manage lots of clients at the same time, and your workflow is maybe it's there, but it's still not great. This definitely seems like the right product for you to check out. Northflow.io. We have been chatting with Fran Melo, CEO, Simona Constantini, CMO. Thank you both for joining me here today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you
Definitely.
so much.
And if it's okay with you, I would just want to leave one thing. And if you're curious about Northflow, would love to talk to us, I'd be more than happy to walk you through it and maybe even figure out the best workflow for your production. And we can sit down with you, look through what you're doing today, and figure out the best way to improve it using Northflow.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best way for them to be able to get in contact with you to do that?
Well, they can email us at info@northflow.io. They can also reach out to us on social media, and we have Go Northflow at Instagram would be Go Northflow, and just reaching out to us through any of the channels through our website. Also,
and our podcast.
And our podcast, yeah.
And our podcast. Matthew, we have a podcast.
Right.
It's called Behind the Workflow. You should be a guest on it. You'd be fantastic.
I would be ecstatic to join you as a guest on your podcast.
Amazing.
So behind the workflow, northflow.io and info@northflow.io. If you'd like to have some input and build a product that works best for you. Fran, Simona, thank you again.
Thank you.